Hello and welcome to TK24 Sports and today's Arsenal transfer show. Well, that's what I'm calling it because what's taking them so long? A lot of you are tuning in right now thinking, hey, where are all these magical transfers that we were promised by Arteta? Well, not really promised, but with the illusion of the last interviews that they're working on transfers behind the scenes and it's just going to take time because the market has changed. Well, I'm here to talk about that and to just really see, has the market changed or has it not? But before we get any further, 100 subscribers per show is what I'm going for. So if you're new to the show, please give it a like. Please give it a massive hell yeah, let's do this. And subscribe to the channel. Be one of the new ones to join the show. If you're returning, thank you so much. Let's get into it. So, Mikel Arteta, Edu, and everyone else behind the scenes are working tirelessly to get deals done. They're already going to see the departures of a Nuno Tavares and a Albert Sambi Lokonga. They are having an option to buy, which is going to be Sambi Lokonga's deal. Tavares of Lazio, that's done, but they both have sell-on clauses in it. So they both didn't reach the transfer fee that they wanted, but having a sell-on clause is the new way forward. Man United have started to do it as well. With players that they're going to sell and players that they're buying in, they've got sell-on clauses attached to them. Arsenal are having that problem with Calafiori. That's what their delay is. Bologna want a sell-on clause because they are having to give away money for selling Calafiori, even though Calafiori wants to go. That's Bologna's for. Arsenal not having any of it. They will get to an agreement, no doubt about it. I'm sure that agreement's pretty much nailed on, that the deal is going to get done. It should be announced. It should have been announced this week, really. But the negotiations are just not in Arsenal's favourite terms at the moment. And they're not in Bologna's favourite terms, but something has to give. Bologna are saying that if it can't get done, they're going to call Calafiori back up to the squad to do the pre-season training. And that could delay it even more. So I think that's just a bluff just to get Arsenal on a move on. But what is taking Arsenal so long to get transfers done? I think it's just timing more than anything else, getting a few players out while getting players in. And it's all like Arsenal are taking their time. They just want to make sure that they can get players off their books. And not in terms of just showing it on the profit and loss revenue. It's just to know that they're not going to be not scapegoated, bloated squad. That's the word I'm looking for. A bloated squad. And you guys have to bear that in mind. When clubs want to buy and sell players, they do look at their squad size. They do look at it and go, is this a bit bloated? We need to get some of the players first before we can buy? Yes, that it is. That's the case. It's not always the profit and loss because they can always make it up in different avenues. But they look at the squad and go, we need to get rid of this, we need to get rid of that before we can bring in and before we can bring in. So the negotiations are always ongoing no matter what. Speaking of negotiations, Arsenal, of course, Moreno, they're from Real Sociedad, they're looking at him as well. That's going to start moving once the Euros is over, once England win the Euros, should I say. Arsenal will go for Moreno as well from Real Sociedad, a 28-year-old midfielder, 1 year left on his contract. That's a midfielder that they're looking at. Mikel Arteta is supposed to be in love with this person. He looks really good. He's not the most flashiest of midfielder. Beforehand, during this window, when it first opened again, Onana, who was at Everton, who's now going to Aston Villa for 50 million, that's who the fans were thinking of. Yes, not all fans, but majority of fans are thinking that's what we need. 6'4" powerhouse, a dog. But Aston Villa, of course, sold David Luiz to Juventus, so they had to replace him, and then they went after Onana. That was done in a matter of minutes, so it seems. But I reckon that was over a good month or so before that deal actually happened. But back to Arsenal. Aaron Ramsdale has now been linked to go in after the Euros. Southampton are looking to go for a loan move, and then they may look to buy him afterwards. I think Arsenal go, okay, if you want to do a loan move, then it's going to be an obligation to buy at 30 million. The problem is Southampton have just been promoted back into the Premier League after being relegated the season before. And they went down to the Championship, came back up, and now they're looking for a loan. And I can see why they look for a loan rather to a buy, because there's no certainty that Southampton will stay in the Premier League for this up-and-coming season. It's going to be so hard. So they'll rather go for the loan, and I'll go for an option to buy should they stay in. Well, Arsenal should go for the, the guarantee to buy. And that's what needs to happen. So if you want to loan him, then there's an obligation that you buy him at the end of the season at 30 million. That could be a good deal for Arsenal. And because Arsenal have signed Ajax's goalkeeper, 850,000. I should have had his name. I got it down somewhere. I think it's Stretford something. He's a young fella. From Ajax, 850 grand. Of course, Arsenal went in for the Wolves goalkeeper, 50,000. That was never going to happen. David Bentley. No, was it David? Was it Danny? Something Bentley. He seems like I'm unprepared because I got all my notes in my office and I'm out here today for the sun. So that's just the difference. Maybe I should have wrote them down and brought them out with me. But hey, again, this is this quick Arsenal transfer news that I've got together. Victor Gyökeres, and that name's being floated out again. Sporting have now dropped their commanding fee from the release clause down to 60 million. Now, whether that's 60 million euros or 60 million pounds, either way, it's 60 million. For a guy that can score as many goals as he did last season, doesn't seem too bad. But that's only a one season in the Portuguese league. That gives him, let's say, a bit of credit. Should Arsenal go for him, or do they wait just a bit longer to see if they can work that fee down into the 50 million range? And I think that's what Arsenal are looking to do. They may go for 50 million plus a 10 million in bonuses. They're not going to do not a release clause, but a resale clause. So if I've said a release clause in the other ones, I'm so sorry, resale clause, and this is what I'm talking about. If they go for resale clause, then Arsenal cannot profit too much from the next sale should they buy Gyökeres and then do the resale clause. Same with Calafiore. They're not trying to get a resale, a sell-on clause in top of it as well. So where do Arsenal stand? What do they need? Where do they go? Is anything moving in the way you want it to move? Does any of that make sense? So when we say where do they stand, at the moment they only stand with David Raya coming in from Brentford, but that was always on the cards anyway when they loaned him in last season just to help with the PSR. That fee of 27 million, that's always going to happen. So the question is it time for Ramsdale to go? Yes, after the Euros. Smith Rowe is looking like he's going to be going to Fulham for about 25 to 30 million. Eddie Nketiah, that will start heating up very quickly after the Euros. And I think in a fee between the 25 to 35 million, it will happen. They won't get 40, they won't get 45, but they won't get 50. So I reckon anywhere between the 25 to 35 million is going to be the agreed fee for Eddie Nketiah to go. Again, it could be a loan move with an obligation to buy. People will try the option. But again, for Arsenal, if they can get the obligation plus a future fee, like a sell-on fee. So if whatever team he goes to can get an extra 20%, 15 to 20, 25%, that's great. Do the same for Smith Rowe. If Fulham buys Smith Rowe, then you want at least a 20 to 25% sell-on fee on top of that as well. Now, this is just the way business is going to go forward, not just for Arsenal, but pretty much for all clubs going forward. If you can't afford the big fee up front, buy the player, sell-on fee on top of it. Everyone's going to be a winner at the end of it, because 3 years later, 4 years later, when they do eventually sell that player that they bought from Arsenal, Arsenal have cash coming in. That's quite smart, really. So when people say that Eddie's not negotiating well, oh, listen, he's negotiating very well, because you're getting a guaranteed fee and then a guaranteed sell-on fee later on. I love that sort of business. I really and truly do. I just want Arsenal just to buy players without having to negotiate a sell-on fee for later on for the players that we buy. But the players that we sell has to have a sell-on negotiation fee. That's just how it is. So quick recap again. Gyökeres, maybe. Reno, I think that's going to happen. Calafiore, definitely going to happen. So that's two players. And here's another one for you. Bruno Guimaraes is from Newcastle, is now back on the radar for Arsenal as a potential midfielder. Arsenal could go back in for him, maybe offer much less than the 80 million, maybe go with a 60 million, 70 million, or 55 could start off with that, and maybe stop at a 70. And I think that's all he's worth, really. People think he's worth much more. I don't think he's worth more than even 60. I think a 50 million to 55 is a fair price for Guimaraes. He's a good player, but he's not a 70, 80, 90, 100 million pound midfielder. He's just not. 50 million, 60 at the tops for me, more than anything else. Anyway, been rambling on and on and on and on. So again, 100 subscribers, that's what I'm looking for. Can you help in that quest? I have big, massive goals. The show's going to keep on getting better. There's no flashy pictures today. It's not my normal production. I'm just literally breaking out some news for you. Just keep you updated, keep you informed as to what's going on. 100 subscribers. Be one of those 100 subscribers to this show. Help the channel grow. And I'll